and really giving that person an idea of who you are, what you're passionate about, and what you're looking for in college, because that recommendation letter is going to be very instrumental. And then, of course, the teacher recommendation or an outside reference letter. Lauren spoke a little bit about that already, so it's really important that you start identifying the teachers that you want to approach to write this overall recommendation letter for you. And then, of course, your SAT and ACT scores are going to be very important also, but there are a lot of colleges that are now going test optional. Washington College, where I work, is a test optional school, so there is an opportunity for you to apply to colleges without submitting SAT or ACT scores. So make sure that any school that you're applying to, you inquire about that overall process, because you may not need to submit scores. And another thing to kind of keep in mind is call the admissions office just to verify that those scores have come through. Sometimes schools have problems with the College Board and the ACT with getting all of those scores sent over. So it's just really important that you call the school and make sure that those scores have been received by the college. And then, of course, your essay. This is something to really start thinking about right now. The Common Application is going to give you a series of prompts that you can choose to write about, but there are also individual essays from the different colleges that you end up applying to that you may have to write also. So it's really important to figure out what type of essay is required from the specific school that you're applying to. Now, when it comes to the essay, make sure that whatever topic it is you're writing about, you're really letting the admissions office know how it affected you, what you learned from it, and how it's going to affect whatever it is you're looking to pursue when you get to college. That's the information that we're really trying to glean from that overall essay. So be sure to keep that in mind. And some don'ts to keep in mind also. Don't submit documents that aren't specifically requested by the school. So your perfect attendance certificate, you can keep that at home. Congratulations for not missing a day, but it's something that is not needed in your overall application. Art portfolios, unless you're applying to an art school that specifically requires it, you do not need to submit that with your application in addition to additional writing supplements. These are things that kind of bog down the overall application process. And when we say students tend to overly stress about the process, these are some of the factors that kind of go into overthinking and overdoing it. So unless the school is specifically requesting that information, I wouldn't worry about submitting it. And another really important thing to keep in mind with your application materials is to make sure that the documents reflect any inconsistencies in your application. So for example, the biggest inconsistency that we get when we're reviewing application is when we have a student that sees a sudden drop in their GPA. So they're relatively consistent inside the classroom until junior year, say, and then their GPA just completely falls off. Well, what caused that? And oftentimes it's because the student suffered some type of illness and they had to miss a lot of school, or there was a death in the family and that really affected them psychologically. So when there is a sudden decrease or even an uptick in your GPA or any other type of inconsistency, make sure you mention why or what caused that particular thing. For example, if you transferred schools, make sure that's reflected on your application materials. And oftentimes with seniors, since they have a lot of freedom and flexibility when it comes to kind of customizing their class schedule, we have a lot of students who are doing internships, or they're in dual enrollment classes, or they're participating in some type of vocational training. So their senior year transcript doesn't reflect the amount of coursework that they're actually doing. Make sure that's reflected somewhere in your application also. And then, when in doubt, give us a call. We're only a phone call away. Make sure you identify who your admissions counselor is at the colleges and universities that you're applying to. And when you call those schools, make sure that you're asking to speak directly with your admissions counselor. That way you can start to build rapport and you can start to build that relationship with the person who's actually going to be reviewing your application. So this is a really important term that has been coined by the admissions world, and that's demonstrated interest. So the more interest you are showing in a college, chances are the more interest that college will then show in you as an applicant. So if you have the opportunity to get to know your admissions counselor, introduce yourself, and have that overall conversation on the phone, you're touching base with your counselor with any particular questions or concerns that you have. When it comes time for us to review your application, we're already, making that connection, and we're going to advocate for you a lot harder than the student that we've never heard from before. So that's another really important thing to kind of keep in mind when you're gathering all of your materials to submit to a college, and if you ever have any particular questions regarding how the school is going to interpret the materials that you've selected. So that's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Barry, and he'll continue on with the dialogue.